Thank you everyone. It's always a great pleasure to come back to California and be a part of the AMSA ARC UC Davis event. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the current application process, the 2013 AACOMAS application, but we're also going to talk a little bit further about the bigger picture, about the more broader issues with osteopathic medicine in today's world, the training, the education, the types of opportunities that you'll be able to receive from our member medical colleges. And in addition, we'll talk a little bit about the current data and trends that's happening in terms of our applicant pool, our matriculant pool, and then we'll wrap up with some resources for you to follow through on if you have some more interest and additional desire to become a part of the osteopathic medical family. So, a little bit about the association. The American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine is located in Chevy Chase, Maryland. We are right on the border of the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. That's where our offices are located. We support the colleges of osteopathic medicine across the United States, and we were founded in the late 1800s. So if you're not too familiar with osteopathic medicine, I will tell you that the beauty of it resides in the philosophical underpinnings of it. And it was founded in the late 1800s by Dr. Andrew Taylor Still, who was trained at the time as an MD. But what he recognized was there was something missing in his education. There was something missing in the training that he received. Many of his family members were perishing of various illnesses and diseases that are in the 21st century very easily curable. So what he recognized was the disconnect with how he was trained as an allopathic physician in that day and time to what he stumbled upon, if you will. And so osteopathic medicine is a belief system, if you will, that the body is a whole unit, that it's not independent systems, that it flows together and it's all interrelated. And so if you look at the AOA website, the American Osteopathic Association's website, what you will find are the 4 tenets that are currently held. And this is what you would learn if you became a first-year medical student at one of our schools. So the 4 tenets, very simply, first and foremost, that the body is a unit, that the person is a complete unit, body, mind, spirit, that the body is capable of self-regulation, self-healing. There's an innate ability in this process of the healing, and that structure and function are reciprocally interrelated. And so what that means, that concept again goes back to the body as a whole unit. And lastly, that rational treatment is based upon an understanding of the basic principles of body unity. So that's the foundation, if you will, the 4 tenets. And this is truly what makes osteopathic medicine unique and special in terms of the way our future students go out and practice and treat their patients. So, a little bit about our colleges. At osteopathic medical colleges across the United States, one of the beauties is that their curriculum is really innovative. It's very cutting edge. One of our schools, as a matter of fact, here at Western University in Pomona in Southern California, has a model that's now become a national model for our colleagues in the MD world as well as osteopathic schools. And actually, I will say, even with other health professionals, and it's an interdisciplinary approach. So if you're an osteopathic medical school student, you can go into a track at our Western University campus where you are also sitting in a classroom in this track with other allied health professionals. So think about it. Medicine is not just about the doctor. It's a team of healthcare professionals. And so in order to better serve future patients and the 21st century of healthcare and the practice of medicine in today's society, understanding that the doctor is part of a team with, say, a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, you know, et cetera, et cetera. This is one of the models that's out there. So you'd get very great, innovative and cutting edge types of programs in the curriculum. Also, you could find problem-based block schedule traditional learning as well. And so one of the things that students gain by attending an osteopathic medical school simply is that the foundation is set in the primary care specialties. That's something we'll talk about in a little while. But the primary care specialty area, the training, the approach to patient care, these things all set DO schools apart. the medical education timeline. So we've highlighted this for you. Sometimes we get the question from pre-meds, is osteopathic medical school the same as an MD school? Well, yes, the timeline is identical. And actually, DOs and MDs are alike in many ways. The underpinnings are identical, so you need your basic pre-med prerequisites, right? So biology, chemistry, math, and physics, and your English. You also have to have your MCAT exam, your letters of recommendation, your extracurricular, your volunteer research. So everything, all the underpinnings are all identical. And the timeline in terms of your 4-year college degree, your 4 years at medical school, and then the time it takes for your residency, 3 to 7 years, your clerkships, and then if you decide to specialize, an additional 1 to 3 years. So the timeline's identical to that of MDs as well. So as we've talked about, the 4 tenets of osteopathic medicine, the underpinnings of recognizing the body as a whole and going forth and treating future patients, the hands-on approach. It's truly very high touch. You will physically touch your patient. And you will have a complete understanding of the musculoskeletal system, the anatomy and the physiology. So at an osteopathic medical school, as we talked about, the education, the timeline, it's identical. The difference is that you get additional training, about 200 hours that's incorporated over the first 2 years of your education. And so you come out with an ability to work with the body, work with the musculoskeletal system to treat not only the symptom or the illness or the disease, but really go to the root of the underlying issue. And having this background and this specialization is really something that's wonderful that you can bring to your future patients. So just as a visual, again, to show with OMT, it's referred to as osteopathic manual treatment or osteopathic manual medicine. So OMT, OMM, those are the acronyms that you'll hear sometimes referred to. It's again understanding the body as a whole unit and being able to recognize where there's an interrelatedness. So if you have an injury, say in your shoulder, as a future physician, you won't just focus on the shoulder, you would probably want to look at the head, the neck, the arm, the hand, the fingers. It's all interrelated, it's all interconnected. And again, the beauty of osteopathic medicine and what you can bring to your future patients. So truly, I will say that DOs, you will find them all around the globe. They are in all branches of the military. They are serving in urban, rural, underserved areas of this country. You do have an opportunity to serve internationally, to do missions, to be a part of DOCARE International. And one of my colleagues at the association, Dr. Tyler Simmet, is currently the president of DOCARE International, and he is an osteopathic trained physician, and he does go and do work in a more global sense through DOCARE International. So currently, let's talk a little bit about our colleges. So right now, osteopathic medical colleges in this country, there are 29 colleges of osteopathic medicine and 4 branch campuses. The majority of our schools are private, so state residency doesn't come into play, and we do have 6 that are public or state institutions. And there are additional schools in process all around the country. There's a great need for osteopathic medicine because it does produce the nation's primary care specialists in this country, and we'll talk a little bit, as I mentioned earlier, about this. But again, you do have the option of osteopathic medical schools when you are looking at your future career plans in the medical profession. Okay, a little bit about the data. I think this is really important that we're transparent, because a lot of times there's campus urban myths, right? As a former pre-med advisor myself, I will tell you that, you know, students would come to me and say, well, I heard this, or I heard that, or they said this. Well, here's the thing. The academic profile is on the rise for all of the osteopathic medical colleges. Average about a 3.5 GPA with about a 27 MCAT. That's where it was in the entering class of 2011. We're still looking at the data for the 2012 class, and we should have that later this fall once we crunch all those numbers. But the profile is pretty solid academically across all realms of the spectrum, and you know, that's a good thing. But again, the schools do look at everything. It's a very holistic approach to the application process and to what you bring in terms of your academics and your MCAT exam scores. Okay. A little bit about the AACOMAS application. Let's talk just briefly about this. I want to highlight the key areas. We rolled out the 2013 AACOMAS application this May, around the 1st of May. Students had the ability to work through the application for about a month, and then applicants started submitting the 1st of June. Okay, very similar to AMCAS process. The thing I will stress is it's really important to apply early. Don't apply at the deadlines. That's never a good rule of thumb, right? So right now it's still a good time, but as we get closer into the winter, it's going to be much more challenging. I would say you want to have your application in before the end of October, certainly no later than early November at this point. One of the things that we also offer our applicants is a fee waiver program. So with AACOMAS, you are able to have a fee waiver, and with the fee waiver, if you meet certain criteria, financial criteria, the first 3 schools, the first 3 designations are free to you, and that's several $100s in savings to you right off the bat. You need to request this at the beginning of the application cycle before you hit submit. And when we run out, which we've already run out of our fee waivers, we simply take your request and we move it forward to all the schools that you've applied to, and we ask them, would you please consider waiving this person's secondary or supplemental fees? And usually most of our schools are very generous about doing that. But again, it's best to do this early in the process than later. Okay, the college information book, I really point this out because it's a very valuable resource for you as a future or current applicant. It is available for free as a downloadable PDF off of our website, acom.org. It's enhanced every year. So if you are interested in doing a DO PhD or a DO MPH, for example, you can do all of that. And the information is inside this wonderful publication. We've also updated it in terms of dual degree programs, and international opportunities and things like that. So this is a great resource, and we certainly encourage you to take a look at it. In terms of the application instructions, we want to highlight this because every year sometimes students or applicants get a little tripped up in this. But our AACOMAS instruction manual is about 20-something pages in length, okay? It's really short, it's very user-friendly, but we do encourage you to look through it before you start the application. And the way to get to this is off of our homepage at acom.org or through the secured portal for the AACOMAS application. Okay. The AACOMAS main menu for 2013. This is it. I'm just highlighting a few key areas that are most important to you. So you can see it's cleanly laid out. It's very, very user-friendly. It's a great format. On one side you have a scroll bar and it says the different statuses of your application, whether your MCAT is there, your transcripts have been received or not received, and how far you've worked through the process of the actual application pages. But it's very user-friendly, but you do, again, want to look at that application instruction manual before you start. For any of our applicants that needed to do a rollover application, we have that feature available if you are a reapplicant and it goes back through to the 2009 AACOMAS cycle. But I also want to point out that because we want to see new data from the year you first applied and then you're reapplying, not all of the data will roll over, but some of it will. And it will help you as you're making that second application if you need to. Another nice feature on the AACOMAS application is the support center, and I want to highlight this because this is a wonderful way for you all to reach out to us, and it's a written transcript, basically what you've asked us, what we said we would do. And the other thing that's really nice about this support center feature is that when you're coming up against a deadline, we can trigger a message to you to say we're still waiting for a transcript or we're still waiting for this documentation, and the deadline's coming up and here's a deadline and this is what we need from you. But it's a two-way street for communication, and most applicants have said that they find it very, very user-friendly for them. The personal statement on the AACOMAS application, this is something to be aware of if you are applying dual DO and MD. The personal statement for the AACOMAS is 4,500 characters. So the takeaway message is don't copy and paste, because it will not happen. And we really want to know that you're applying to DO schools for all the right reasons and that it's a good fit for you, and you really have an understanding and awareness of what it is that you're applying to and for. So again, 4,500 characters on the personal statement on the AACOMAS, and on the MCAT section, this is also very important to highlight that we do need your 8-digit MCAT number that was assigned to you when you took the exam. And this is the best way for us to be able to match your MCAT score to your AACOMAS application, okay? But we need that 8-digit number. The other thing I also want to point out is that you have the ability to self-report MCAT exams that you've taken and self-report the numbers and the alphabet for the written section. In addition, you also get to tell us when you plan on taking it again, if that's what you're going to do. Okay, so I want to make sure you guys have that information. And again, you see the screenshot, it's very cleanly laid out for you. If you are a reapplicant, certain of your transcripts can roll over, so you don't need to request a new transcript, and it will save you some time and money. For letters of recommendation, currently AACOMAS is not collecting, nor are we processing letters of recommendation on behalf of our member schools. Now, AMCAS is doing that, and they've been doing that for a few years now. We are considering looking at this feature for 2014. We're not making any commitment yet, but we are looking at doing a letter of recommendation collection process for the 2014 AACOMAS cycle. Some of our DO schools do in fact require a letter from a DO that you've shadowed or worked with or engaged with. Not all of them do. However, it's strongly preferred that you have that DO letter and that you have had some shadowing experiences. We really suggest that you reach out to the state association in where you live. So California's home is the California State DO Association, or reach out to current admissions officers at our schools. Ask them if they have alumni or practitioners in your region that maybe they can help connect you to. In terms of the GPA calculation for AACOMAS, some slight differences here than AMCAS, and I like to point it out again because of the fact that we have such an overlap in the pool. So AACOMAS calculates the GPA for the sciences, but note math is not considered part of our science GPA calculation. Okay, so you're all familiar with the BCPM calculation. Ours is minus the math. And so math is considered non-science, and if you ever needed to repeat coursework, the grades are not averaged. We take the repeated coursework. So here's a good example I like to give. I was a freshman, I didn't do so well in my general biology class, so I got a D. I retook that class and I got a B+. 4 years later, 5 years later, I'm applying. I use the D, I have to list the D, but I also have to list the new grade, so the B+, and the B+ is what's calculated into my GPA. They're not averaged, okay? And lastly, one of the things that we would like to encourage all pre-med students to do is release to their advisor at their undergraduate institution or their graduate program, if they have a pre-health advisor, the data that they have on the AACOMAS application, because it really helps your pre-med advisor or your faculty advisor better advise to your school where the students are going to which DO schools are they having, you know, success with. And so we really encourage you all to consider doing that. Lastly, on deadlines, we don't have one drop dead deadline. We have rolling admissions. So most of our schools roll through February 1. The majority of our schools have a February 1 deadline. But I'll show you in a few minutes the data that supports why you want to apply earlier in the summer than later. I would say no later than December 1. But I would probably say no later than November 15th for you all to apply if you haven't already considered applying because of the rate of growth we're experiencing. So let's talk a little bit about the current applicant data and trends. This is really important, and this truly affects every single one of you in this room who's applying or will be applying. Over 20% of current medical school students in the United States are attending an osteopathic medical college. By the year 2019, perhaps sooner, we anticipate 1 in 4 medical school students in the United States will be at an osteopathic medical school. And so here is the data from the AACOMAS 2012 cycle that literally just ended on April 1st. And as of the date that I reported this data, April 19th, 2012, we had nearly 120,000 individual applications that we processed on behalf of just over 15,000 applicants. Now, the data as of this Friday showed that we had about just over 100,000 individual applications as of this Friday. So again, we're looking at a tremendous spike in the 2013 cycle that we're in right now, and it's going to be another record-breaking application cycle. I will tell you from experience, having traveled across the country doing recruitment events on behalf of our member schools, that many students are designating osteopathic medicine as their #1 choice. It's not a backup. It hasn't been for quite a number of years. And I just want to reinforce that concept that, you know, sometimes, again, the campus urban myth that DO schools somehow are backup schools. They're not. And as I said, they haven't been for a number of years. Many of these applicants, DO school is the only choice that they are applying to. So it's been a game changer, and I think this year is also going to be another record-breaking application cycle. In terms of the baccalaureate majors that were studied by the students that were in the entering class of 2011, the majority of them by default are biological sciences majors or the life sciences. And as you know, pre-med prerequisites fall under the biological sciences, right? But you also know the MCAT's changing, right? And the MCAT's going to start testing to the humanities, the social sciences. And so you need to really reshape your thinking in terms of what's going to be required for the MCAT when the new version comes out. And I'm a true believer in Renaissance scholars, that you need to be able to understand that medicine is an art as well as it's a science. And so this is now going to be on the new MCAT exam, that new approach, those new types of questions. And so I think that the pie chart's going to change in terms of the majors in the next couple of years. And then in terms of the matriculants, the majority of them that did start at a DO school in the 2011 cycle were between the ages of 21 and 25. So what does that mean? It means it's okay to take a gap year. It's okay to do a master's degree, a post-bac program. It's okay to teach for America. It's okay to do Peace Corps, you know, whatever it is that you want to do that you're passionate about. And if it has a relevance to healthcare, to community service, it's okay to have that time away from your undergraduate studies and focus on something else that you're passionate about, that's meaningful to you, because you want to be able to describe that on that application when it is time for you to apply. So again, I like to point out the age demographic, because I think that's really important to recognize. It's okay to give yourself some time between, you know, your undergraduate career and then moving on into your medical careers. And I like the Matriculant Map because California historically ranks #1 for matriculants going to medical school, both MD and DO. It's the largest population of pre-meds in this country, and it reflects that in the Matriculant Map as well as the applicant pool. So it can be very competitive in the state of California. We recognize that. And again, it's great for us to be here so that you can know that you have options and don't limit yourself to regions of the country. If you're open and you're able to travel and go to other parts of the country for your medical education, that can be a really good thing. In terms of your graduate medical education, okay, so what happens once you're in osteopathic medical school for 4 years, and what do you want to do from there? Well, one of the beauties, as we talked about, was primary care is a really strong hallmark at all osteopathic medical colleges in this country. But it does not limit you. If you want to be a surgeon, if you want to go to anesthesiology, oncology, radiology, you name it, you can do that. The profession of osteopathic medicine does not hold you back from specializing. You hold yourself back by not doing well, say on your board scores or your clerkships or your residency programs that you do while you're in your 4 years. But osteopathic medicine can open the door if you want to specialize. It's not going to limit you. Many times we get students asking us about international practice rights. Well, yes, DOs are able to practice overseas and globally. In approximately 45 countries, and it's growing, you can practice as an osteopathic trained physician. I refer you to the American Osteopathic Association's website, the AOA. The International Practice Rights Map is there for you. You can also take a look at the Canadian Osteopathic Association if you are Canadian. One of the things that I will mention is, again, the campus urban myth. If you're a DO, you can't practice internationally. Well, again, that's a myth. There's a difference, there's a distinction between you being trained as an osteopathic physician, hanging a shingle in a foreign country because you want to practice in a foreign country, versus you being trained as an osteopathic physician wanting to do, say, Doctors Without Borders or WHO, World Health Organization. So you have to be really clear on what it is that you're asking or talking about, but DOs are able to practice and do things internationally. And I refer you to the Osteopathic International Alliance website, the OIA. It's a great resource. They have a countries directory. If you click on it, A through Z, and it will tell you what's happening around the globe. Also, I mentioned DOCARE International. That's a wonderful resource for osteopathic trained physicians that want to do something internationally. On the OIA website, you know, we just had the Summer Olympics in London, right? On their landing page, they indicate that there were over 100 osteopathic physicians that were at the Olympic Games treating the athletes in London. And again, that goes to the specialized training that DOs have, really being experts in the musculoskeletal system, so much so that you will find many DOs in the practice of sports medicine, or they are professional team doctors for, say, NFL, NBA, hockey, you name it, they're out there. Again, because of their excellence in this area of medicine, this practice of medicine. And lastly, I'd like to refer you to a few of the AACOM resources that we have for you. Please take a look at the AACOM website. We recently updated it. There's a wonderful section called Data and Trends. So if you want to drill down and get more data and specifics about the demographics of our pool, of our matriculants, it's all there for you. We offer recruiting events all around the country, whether it's an AACOM sponsored event or it's the individual schools holding open houses. I really do encourage you to visit an osteopathic medical school campus, meet the students, see the facilities, you know, talk with the faculty, really get a feel the atmosphere on these campuses. I think you will find them very warm, very welcoming, and again, it's part of your education and your research into what's going to be a really good fit for you as a future physician. This past summer, it was wonderful. We had an opportunity to hear from 2 second-year medical school students at our Toro University campus here in Vallejo, California, about 30 minutes outside of San Francisco. And they wrote a wonderful publication that we co-authored with them, A Brief Guide to Osteopathic Medicine. It's about maybe 32 pages. It's a PDF, it's available for free. It is a wonderful, wonderful resource written by current students for students like yourself. It dispels a lot of these campus urban myths that I talked about. And you know, these students are walking the walk. They're going to be doctors in a few years. So I really encourage you and invite you to take a look at this publication. It's current, it's timely. Pre-SOMA chapters. I'm a big fan of pre-SOMA. When I was doing pre-med advising, I was equally a big fan of creating AMSA chapters on undergraduate campuses. If you have an opportunity and you want to take on a leadership role, creating a pre-SOMA chapter on your campus is a wonderful opportunity for you. The pre-SOMA website's available there, and the National Pre-SOMA Director. It's a great way to connect you to the osteopathic medical community, students, current students, faculty, you know, maybe even having field trips, if you will, road trips to the campuses. The DO Online magazine, again, very timely. These are articles that are written by current physicians, students, everything that you want to know. If you want to know about salaries or outlooks in terms of different professions or specialty areas, it's all there for you. It's a great resource, it's free, and it's online. We just started a AACOMAS Facebook page this summer, so if you are applying or thinking about applying, you can friend us, and all of our recruitment outreach activities are listed there as well. And lastly, I'm going to close on the note, which is pretty important in this country, the primary care physician shortage. So I live in the DC metro area, and we're hearing it every day, you know, with the debates that are going on with the presidential election coming up. But this has been going on for a number of years in this country, and it's really reaching a crisis point. There's not enough primary care specialists in this country. And this affects, as I said earlier, all across the United States. Urban areas, rural areas, you know, underserved areas. So it's really important to be aware of this topic because it may come up during the course of one of your medical school interviews. But if you look at the data side by side, look at AMA data, look at AOA data, you will see that the osteopathic medical schools are truly historically continuing to produce primary care physicians in this country. One of the beauties of that is the hallmark I talked about of our schools, the education, the training that you will get. So many of the schools, osteopathic medical schools, are ranked in the top 10, top 20, excuse me, in U.S. News and World Report world rankings because of the excellence, because of the training, because of their commitment to this foundation, if you will, of medicine. It's a great foundation. It can set you up really nicely if you do want to specialize, but if you want to stay in a primary care specialty area, you certainly can do so, and you will receive some amazing training and education at our schools. So I'd like to end on that note, and I hope this was very informative for you and helpful, and I wish all of you in this room much success because you are truly the future of medicine in this country. So good luck with all that you are doing and much success. Thank you.
We do have one question from our Twitter feed, if that's okay. Question about the non-traditional student. I'm guessing those who might have taken a gap year or more before applying. Is there anything specific that they need to do different or focus on additionally application? Specifically, she mentions letters of recommendation. I know your organization doesn't accept them, but she mentions them and asks about higher GPA versus MCAT score. Can the MCAT make up for it? So.
That's a really good question. I think for non-traditional applicants, historically, if you look at our schools, I think they do a really good job of looking at non-traditional applicants. They bring value to the medical community with their life experience, their work experience. One of the things that DO schools will do in the admissions process that is truly holistic is they will look at the whole picture. So they'll look at your work experience, at your academics, at the letters of recommendation that you have to offer. A non-traditional applicant certainly would want to consider, you know, some of the things that they're doing either in their current work, life, and maybe reaching back to some of the faculty so that they still have a piece of the academic portfolio for their file for our school. But again, it's the whole picture. One thing isn't necessarily going to negate something else. So when everything is said and done, there's not anything that I would say would be a firm and hard cutoff. It's looking again at that whole picture. And I think, again, that speaks to the beauty of what osteopathic medicine has to offer you and how they look at you as an applicant and as a future physician in this country. Any other comments or thoughts or questions that I could answer for you? I know we covered quite a bit, but it gives you something to think about. I hope it gives you a really good overview and a good foundation from which to move forward. And again, I do recognize that this can be very stressful and it can be very challenging to get into a medical school in this country. But again, everyone's pathway is going to be different. No two pathways need to be alike, and that's the beauty of the pathways. You can all get to the same point, but you can come at it from different angles and be very successful. So thank you very much.